So the January 2025 Visa Bulletin just came out. In this video, we're going to review what's currently happening with Visa Bulletin dates. And as you know, if you tune into our videos, we like to see if we can anticipate what's coming. So I'm going to walk you through all of that with a lot of data that we've pulled together, some charts and graphs that I think you'll find interesting. Before we jump into all that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Chad Graham with the law firm of Graham Adair. Okay, first I'm going to show you the actual dates so you can see those. Here's the chart. You can see that there's not a lot of change, but there's actually a little bit more than we thought we would get at the beginning of the fiscal year, which started in the October Visa Bulletin. We've seen almost no movement over the last 3 Visa Bulletins. Here we see a little bit of additional retrogression in categories like EB2 India and EB3 China. The other dates either stayed the same or moved back into additional retrogression by just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to show you some charts that actually show you what I'm talking about here. This data reflects more than 2 years worth of Visa Bulletins. Now, the way to read these charts is as the lines go up, that means that there's additional retrogression, meaning there's a longer wait for a green card. The blue line is EB1, the green line is EB2, and the black line is EB3. Now, let's start with worldwide. As you probably know if you watch our videos, and if you don't, shame on you. The worldwide category includes all countries except for India and China. So unless you're from India or China, you're looking at the worldwide chart. Okay, let's walk through this. As you can see from the blue line, priority date remains current. There's no wait. For EB2 and EB3, those lines are fairly close together. You can see a spike there in EB3, which means there was more retrogression and it was better to be in EB2. But now those dates are very similar, so there's not a huge advantage to one category over the other. As you may be aware, historically, EB2 has been more advantageous than EB3. Because of that, a lot of people push to have their cases filed into the second preference category when normally they would have been filed in the third preference category. And what that did is that brought the EB2 retrogression numbers up till they were roughly the same as EB3. And actually, for a period of time, there was some inversion where EB3 was significantly better than EB2. Now what we see is those dates remain roughly the same because people have sort of figured out how to get their cases filed in the categories they want to. So those EB2 and EB3 dates tend to be pretty close. Okay, let's look at the chart for India now. As you can see here, things have held fairly steady. We thought we were seeing a good trend in EB1 with things coming down, but it has increased over the past 6 months, little by little every month. Same with EB2 and EB3. Okay, now let's take a look at China. Again, in the EB1 and EB2 categories, things have held fairly steady. EB3 actually had retrogression. You can see that black line was lower than the green line, but now in this last Visa Bulletin, it's popped up to where it's about the same as the EB2 line. So the EB2 and EB3 China now are roughly the same. One is not necessarily more advantageous than the other. Okay, now this final graph I'm going to show you on what's currently happening shows total retrogression. So there's one line because we take the total months of retrogression for each country in each category and add that number up. So what we have right now is about 500 months of total retrogression. Now, that doesn't mean anybody's waiting that long, but what that shows is sort of the overall trend on retrogression. You can see it's been steadily increasing. Now, by comparison, what we're going to do is look at the first term of Trump. So we're talking 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. We pulled together all of the Visa Bulletin dates for those 4 years, and I'm going to show you those charts so you can see what that looks like, and then we'll compare with how we're doing right now. So first, I'm going to start in reverse order and show you the total retrogression line. Now, as you can see under Trump, there's a lot of volatility here. Part of this was because of the COVID-19 situation where entry into the United States was significantly restricted. And so those consular processing green card applications came way down. In fact, during parts of 2019 and 2020, they were almost non-existent. The other thing is, as compared to the last 4 years of Obama's presidency, his second term, there were more than 400,000 fewer green card applications filed during Trump's presidency. So because of policies and processing times and other things like that, there were a lot fewer green card applications during Trump's 4 years of presidency. At the end of Trump's presidency, there were about 400 total days of retrogression shown in this chart as compared to the 500 that we have now. So over the last 4 years of Biden's presidency, we've seen sort of a steady increase in overall retrogression. Let's look at the country-specific charts, starting with China. What you're going to see in each of these charts is a fair amount of volatility. Now, you can see that EB1 shows about 20 months of retrogression as compared to where it is right now at about 24 months, so roughly the same. EB2 was at 60 months at the end of Trump's presidency, whereas now it's at about 55 months, so roughly the same, but a little bit better. And then EB3 was at 40 months at the end of Trump's presidency and now sits at 55. So there's been sort of a steady increase there in the EB3 China category. Okay, now let's take a look at the India chart. Again, you see the volatility here. Now, if you look at EB1, it was at about 20 months of retrogression at the end of Trump's presidency, and now it sits at about 3 years. So it's increased by a little over a year in total retrogression. Whereas the EB2 and EB3 lines have increased just a few months. In the case of EB3, it's almost a year of additional retrogression, not quite. And finally, the worldwide category. You can see that all dates were current at the end of Trump's first presidency, so that coincides with the current priority date for EB1 worldwide, but EB2 worldwide, as you remember, have roughly 2 years of retrogression, so there's been a steady increase there over the last 4 years in EB2 and EB3 worldwide category. Okay, well, we covered a lot. We don't really know what's going to happen in this next Trump presidency that starts in a few weeks, so we'll have to see how policies change and affect green card applications. If there is a tightening like there was last time, then we'll probably see those retrogression dates start to come down. Now, this could take a while. We probably won't see a significant impact right away. But if you remember, during Trump's first presidency, there was a significant restriction on EB5 applications because the minimum investment amounts had gone way up. Any unused EB5 numbers flow down to EB1, and if they're unused in EB1, then they would flow up to EB2 and EB3. So EB1 would probably see the initial bump if there's going to be some benefit in terms of less retrogression. But again, we'll have to see. If you don't already subscribe to our channel, do that now. We provide these updates every month, in addition to updates on legislative and policy changes to immigration law. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. We'll see you next time.